Hey guys, how's it going? So it's me, Yoko. For those who don't know me, I'm a Japanese living in Japan who is a huge Trump supporter, and today I have to be kind of, I don't know, quiet because one of my family is actually sleeping because of the flu. So silly. Today I would like to talk about the visit of Prime Minister Abe and President Obama to Pearl Harbor. And I am actually rather interested in what you guys thought of that because I'm just curious and I feel like I don't have much to tell you, even though I'll be rambling. So Japanese people, I think, are taking it very well. Like, they're kind of loving it actually, because this happens for two reasons. One, the majority of people here are non-political people, and they kind of like passively support Prime Minister Abe and its regime because he doesn't do anything stupid and things have been stable, you know. And the second thing is that the conservatives here, we love Prime Minister Abe. Like, I think that I have told you guys before, but what Prime Minister Abe to us is like what Mr. Trump is to you guys. And he actually gets labeled the same as Mr. Trump here in Japan. Like, he's often called as Hitler or Nazi or dictator or racist or all kinds of things. But of course, just like Mr. Trump, Prime Minister Abe came back to the cabinet again after the dark 3 years of the Democratic Party regime, so he's like a savior to us too. So that's why whatever he does, even something that I personally criticize of, people praise him like so much, which is dangerous, you know. That's why I support some other party than LDP, which is a party that he belongs to. So let's talk about the media here. So the majority of the media here are very liberal, as I said before, but they have been showing that Japan and the US are on the same page, so I think it's good. So as for the Japanese side, like our citizens or our politicians or our media, we're all good about the visits. Like, we're all kind of happy about it, I would say. But I have a feeling that some American patriots didn't like the visit or the speeches that our leaders made, because I did see some comments on Fox News, or for example like saying, oh, I wonder how Abe felt standing on the bodies of those who were killed and blah blah blah. And I'm like, are you serious? You know, I was surprised to see those comments. Like, something that I thought of when I saw that was like, are you gonna ask the same thing against Bush, who tried to visit Yasukuni Shrine here in Japan, where there are nearly 3 million spirits of the Japanese soldiers and everyone like that. And the visit by Bush, by the way, didn't happen because Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan, they're basically Chinese pets, so they stopped him from doing that, considering how China, South Korea and North Korea would react. And in my opinion, patriotic Americans can be categorized in two types through my Japanese eyes. Of course, this is regarding Japan, but the first type is those who know the true history of Franklin Roosevelt and other evils and understand why he and others wanted to start the war against Japan. Another type of patriots from America I'm seeing is those who react negatively against whatever the President Obama does, by how things seem, and get angry by their extreme points of view. When I look at President Obama generally, like as a whole, like I personally do not evaluate him well at all, like I've been repeating, and I strongly oppose to most of his policies, like domestically and internationally. And in terms of Asia especially, he was supposed to do things differently or more actively, but he was reluctant to stop Communist China, for example, for their illegal activities in the South China Sea, which we know as the expansion policy of Communist China. And President Obama did start to destroy East Asia relations by forcing the agreement on Japan and South Korea in such a naive way, as I said before. But as for his trip to Hiroshima and this one at Pearl Harbor, I have to say that I evaluate them well because it's such a great political message. And why is that? Well, because as I have told you guys like 100 times, and you might be sick of hearing me say this, but Communist China's agenda is to cut the ties between Japan and the US. And it's been the same since before the World War II. And in order to understand this, I recommend reading about Venona Papers, which are official documents released by NSA in 1995. If you haven't already. Or you could read books like, for example, President Roosevelt and the Coming of the War, 1941, Appearances and Realities. It's written by this historian and doctor named Charles Austin Beard. I haven't read the book, but I read about the book in another book. So I'm gonna read some of the description of the book I saw on Amazon, okay? So Beard's main argument is that both Democratic and Republican leaders, but Roosevelt above all, worked quietly in 1940 and 1941 to insinuate the United States into the Second World War. Basing his work on available congressional records and administrative reports, Beard concludes that FDR's image as a neutral, peace-loving leader was a smokescreen behind which he planned for war against Germany and Japan even well before the attack on Pearl Harbor. I might have said this to you guys before, but it's interesting to me that the conservatives in the United States criticize Obama, Hillary Clinton, or Bill Clinton, or Bernie, Warren, whoever on that line, like harshly, but at the same time they tend to not criticize the past version of them, like Roosevelt or Wilson, like Woodrow Wilson. But I could be wrong, because someone on Twitter actually told me that neocon people and true conservative people think differently about history. And I don't know, like, you guys have to tell me like the differences, or if like how people think, you know. One thing that I know is the critics that I admire here in Japan, well, especially this one guy, he learned the true history that we didn't know from the traditional conservative people like Ms. Phyllis Schlafly and others. And that should let you guys realize that it's not us that is making this stuff up. We learn from American conservatives about the truth, and it's not like we made this up to think good about our country, you know what I mean? So I'm Japanese, and I don't want you guys to misunderstand me, but I want American people to be proud of your country. And that is not only because I love American people and American culture, but also realistically speaking, because it feeds our national interests as well as Japan. And it's important that you guys have pride in your country, especially on the history of those who fought for your country. But at the same time, I am a realistic person, and I see a different side of things that we shouldn't ignore, you know. So for that reason, I sometimes oppose to American or Western ideas, you know, but that is not because I want to look down on you or I want to insult you or anything. It's not like that. I just think that it's important to look back and see what really happened at that time, or where our current problems are coming from, you know, so that we can avoid those things in our generation or later generations. So sorry for this monotone voice, but I can't help it because I'm just being nice to my family, you know. So back to the topic of Pearl Harbor. So I thought it was great because the main message of our two leaders were the power of reconciliation, which President Obama put it as "otagai no tameni" in Japanese, with and for each other. It was so funny that he was trying to say well, you know, but he was like "otagai no tameni." And so American. That phrase, actually he has used that before, so that has been his policy, which is good. So the both leaders said pretty much the same things this time in Pearl Harbor and at his visit in Hiroshima, or when our prime minister gave a speech at U.S. Congress. Like, each time our leaders sent a strong message against communist China. Do you guys notice that? Like, I'm just very thankful for that. As I said, Communist China wants to cut the ties between Japan and the US. And Japan and the US each time showed that we won't let that happen. How cool is that? I really love it. Like, oh man. Our country showed that clearly that they cannot tear us apart. No one will tear us apart. This is not about history, even though we misunderstand it as history. This is not about history that you get obsessed with because you have pride. This is about diplomacy. This is about politics. So there's a political move that you are supposed to take. We have to be wise enough to go above the communist traps, you know. We have to make sure that we don't get trapped by them. Like, no matter how they throw all these things that, you know, scratches our ego or pride. And it was amazing that the Admiral Harry Harris was there, even though of course he will be there because he's the leader of the Pacific Command. But Admiral Harry Harris has been covering all the things that President Obama has been missing or lacking, you know, basically wiping his ass. And President Obama introduced him during his speech, and I was surprised by that because I don't know, I just thought that President Obama wouldn't do that for some reason. I really like this part of his speech, so I'll quote. Earlier this year, near Pearl Harbor, Japan joined with 24 nations in the world's largest maritime military exercise. That included our forces from U.S. Pacific Command led by Admiral Harry Harris, the son of an American naval officer and a Japanese mother. Harry was born in Yokosuka, but you wouldn't know it from his Tennessee twang. Thank you, Harry, for your outstanding leadership. Imagine that you're in a high position of the Chinese Communist Party hearing this. It included the Admiral, who is a mix of Japanese and American. Like, and he's got a great leadership. Like, how amazing is that? Like, he's a child of us. Like, seriously, you can't cut the ties that our countries have. Like, how amazing is that? Like, do you realize how strong that is? I thought this was beautifully done, in my opinion. Of course, there's a negative side though. Like, a lot of media are reporting that, like English media, I saw that they are reporting that our Prime Minister renewed a pledge that Japan would not wage war again or something like that. But that's actually not new. Like, our constitution does not allow us to have the right to fight, right? Article 9. And it was written to weaken Japan in all areas. Like, there are other articles in the constitution that weaken us and curse us forever. So who wrote the constitution? America wrote it, but who exactly? Communist spies, including Thomas Bison and others. And Communist China, of course, is in favor of the fact that we don't have military. And of course they are going to love the communist written constitution that we have. So they are going to bash us when we, you know, rewrite it, even though all the rest of the nations in the world have been changing the constitution like constantly. But yeah, so now we can't fight against communism. Thank you very much. At least conservative Americans were against those spies, like even before the World War II. And more and more Japanese conservatives are starting to be aware of the true history, so I think that's good. And I strongly believe that we need to interact more on the history to be on the same page, you know. By the way, if you want to know the Japanese perspective on the news and stuff in English, Sankei Shimbun, which I often talk about, like, they are basically conservative. Like, they're conservative for the most part. Now they have an English service actually, and it's called Japan Forward. And I'm like, who named that? Because when I hear the word forward, I instantly think of communism, like communism slogan. But anyway, the About Us section says, Japan Forward is a new English language news and opinion website created by the Sankei Shimbun, one of Japan's leading newspapers, to deliver sensible Japanese voices to the world. We think it is vital to show the rapidly changing world the true face of Japan through Japan-related news and balanced thoughtful views and opinions. Japan Forward covers every field of Japanese life, including history and culture, in order to deepen the understanding of Japan. I'm not sponsored or anything, but if you want to get the information from here but don't want the liberal bias, go read on the Japan Forward or spread about it or support Sankei Shimbun in general, because that way they will gain more and more power while all the other liberal power will decrease. So Breitbart or Breitbart, like I don't know the pronunciation, but yeah, that information source or Fox News or InfoWars, like I wish that all this sort of English source would be available in Japanese. I don't think that they would have such budget, but because the majority of us don't understand English, even though we learn it as you guys learn Spanish in school. Like everybody is supposed to understand the basic, but mostly a lot of us do not understand English, especially when it comes to politics. The language barrier is really huge for us, I think. The left have the international networks and that's why they're strong, so we patriots have to have our networks as well to protect ourselves and to fight back. So let's help each other in every way possible. And speaking of help, I'm smooth. Due to my situations, my job is now YouTube. And as for politics, I decided to upload political videos like 2 or 3 times a week. And if you like where I stand or my approach, if you could please visit my Patreon page to support me so that I can do more and be more in Japan. And when my presence gets bigger in Japan, it will come back to you as something good, because I really believe in the cooperation of Japan and the US. If you want to know why I'm in that situation though, like you might wonder like why did you quit your job like before establishing the financial base, you know. But I've actually uploaded a video on Patreon, so go check it out and see what I have to say. I'll link it below, so check out the link. And I have other channels like music or daily vlogs or dog channel as well, which I have started to activate. I will link everything below. Again, I am so sorry for this monotone voice. I am getting sick of myself actually, but thank you guys so much for watching until the end. I almost forgot, but if you have watched till this point of this video, let's put the name Roosevelt in the comment section below. Is it focused? Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video and also subscribe. So I'll talk to you guys in a few days, I think. So until then, please take care.